Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the second part of the review. How do populations evolve due to natural selection? Variations increases chance of survival. That's the biggest thing about evolution, being able to survive and pass on those traits to future generations. So genetic variation is studied in populations, and that population word is defined by groups of individuals of the same species that interbreed. So because members of a population interbreed, they share a common group of genes called a gene pool. So that's all of the possible alleles that you guys see there that can be shared among a population. So there are two main sources of genetic variations, and the first one would be mutations. Any change in a sequence of DNA can occur because of mistakes in the replication of DNA or as a result of radiation or chemicals in the environment. So mutations would be the ultimate source of variations in all life forms. Okay. Now, recombination is again the natural formation and offspring of genetic combinations not present in the parents. There are two types. Independent assortment, which occurs during meiosis, and then crossing over, which occurs during meiosis as well, further increases variation. So we see how mutation here could affect the process of evolution. So that mutation in the DNA changes the genotype, changes the phenotype, creates the variability within the population. And again, with the allele frequency in the gene pool being changed, a new species arise. And again, if the reproductive success in the environment is good, evolution. If this new species is overwhelmed by environmental pressures, then extinction occurs. So how can we use graphs to show how a population is changing? We can show the changes in a population by observing what happens to the normal distribution. And when I mean normal distribution, I'm referring to this, where the extremes are low, and again, the frequency of the mean is very high. This is also called the bell-shaped curve. Frequency of phenotype is highest near the mean value and then decreases near the extremes. So this type of graph means that the phenotypes near the middle of the range tend to be the most common in a population for whatever this trait will be. So for height, we notice that there's a difference between men and women. The height mean is, you know, very common for 70 inches, whereas the height mean for women is near the 65 inches. So natural selection can affect the distribution of a trait in one of three ways. We have directional, stabilizing, and disruptive. And moving forward, we're going to be touching upon these in detail. With directional, directional means one way or the other. So it takes place when individuals at one end of the curve have higher fitness than the individuals in the middle or at the other end. So the range of phenotypes shifts in one direction or the other direction. We see that here. Again, low drug resistance on this side, high drug resistance on this side. So this simply tells me that the mean is shifting towards the high drug resistance. The second type would be stabilizing selection. Stabilizing selection takes place when the individuals near the center of the curve have a higher fitness. So again, the curve goes up. So this makes sense. We know that stable is in the middle. And so anything that is to the side would be considered unstable. If it's shifting from one to the other, back and forth, is considered to be unstable. So the middle would be the most stable. Now, this situation keeps the center of the curve at its current position, but again, the narrows on the extremes. Okay, so the extremes are practically non-existent. The weight of human infants would be an example. Smaller than average babies are less likely to be healthy, and larger than average babies are more likely to have difficulty being born. So the um, the middle weight, intermediate weight, would be the one that occurs most frequently, allowing the babies to live as well. The last type of graph would be disruptive. So disruptive selection takes place when individuals at the upper and lower ends of the curve have higher fitness than the middle. So this situation, selection acts most strongly against the intermediate type of phenotype. So if the pressure of natural selection is strong enough and lasts long enough, this situation can cause the single curve to split into two, creating two distinct phenotypes. And if the two phenotypes cannot mate with one another due to reproductive isolation, then it's two completely different species. So let's take a look at this graph. In a hypothetical population, white and dark brown mice are better able to blend with an environment than tan mice. A new mice predator moves into the area. So what would the sketch look like? Well, it's acting against the tan fur because they can't blend well into the environments. So the white and brown phenotypes gets passed on, and it would be a disruptive selection. So, light-colored pepper moths are better camouflaged against a pristine environment. Dark-colored ones blend in better with a sooty environment. The Industrial Revolution in the 19th century in England would cause what type of natural selection to occur, and towards which phenotype. So again, the Industrial Revolution means that there were a lot of coal being burned and that produce a sooty environment, this would be selecting towards the black phenotype. So there's a directional selection. Okay, y'all, that's it for today. Have a good one.